Hi guys, I hope you're doing well. I'm really excited today since we are on our way to shoot the first video in the series called EV Owner's Perspective. I know there are quite a few channels out there doing car reviews and mostly selling electric vehicles. I like to watch those videos and get informed. But I think there is a need to hear the voice of EV owners and their unbiased opinion, what it is like driving an electric vehicle, what are the pros and cons. In other words, what do they like and what are the limitations in the real world. I hope watching the videos on our YouTube channel will help thousands of you out there get prepared when you're going to adopt an EV. And I believe the question is not if, because sooner or later this will be the only reality. In other words, the only game in town. Alright, we have another 20 miles on M25, so let me set the cruise control to 60, or let me do 65. Arrived. We're here to meet one of my EV friends. Okay, hi Vince, how are you doing? You're right.
Not bad at all, it's been a long time.
Great. It's good to see you. Guys, I want to present you Vince. We are EV friends. We're actually doing Uber for, quite a few years, and we know each other for more than 1 year. And we're also part of EV Ambassadors program. So I'm glad he's willing to share with you some practical knowledge what it is driving and owning an EV. And I bet that will help you and encourage you to get into the EV world. I know that whenever you want to make a decision, you want to see some happy owners, and I believe he's one of the happy owners.
Very.
So let's get to it.
For me, it's always a pleasure to actually help and advise people when it comes to EV. I've been driving EV now for 10 years, since 2011.
Wow.
While we're here, let me just plug you in so that you can get some energy into your car.
Oh, great. So Vince has a home charger. That is great.
And the good thing about this home charger, it's what's known as a smart charger, which means it's connected to my solar panels.
Oh, wow.
And on a sunny day, I charge my car for free.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
Awesome.
Okay, and I'll just
That's it.
and boost. That's it.
You have already 10 years of experience, as you mentioned. I think you're one of the most knowledgeable and experienced EV driver that I've ever met. Would you like to share some of this knowledge with the audience?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get to the first question, which is, I think, most important for all of us. Why did you switch to an EV? Do you remember when was that and why did you switch?
I remember exactly. It was 2011. I used to do a lot of driving, and when I looked at my actually monthly cost in petrol, it was shocking. And when Nissan announced that they were going to launch the Leaf, I calculated the running cost of an electric car, and it's significantly cheaper than petrol, not reliant on pump prices, and also it's good for the environment. If everyone switches to an EV, it means the environment that we're in, the air that we breathe, is a lot cleaner.
Great. Okay, I'm interested. Do you think you will ever go back to an ICE car?
Simply put, absolutely no. I mean, absolutely no way. When I go on vacation, I always try to hire an EV if it's available. If it's not, then I really do not enjoy driving an ICE car.
Combustion engine.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, fair enough. Do you remember your first electric vehicle and what was the impression, the whole feeling when you just had your first ride with it?
Well, the first impression on that test drive was, can I say the brand of car?
Yeah, yeah.
It was the Nissan Leaf, which was launched in 2011.
The first.
Yeah, the first one. When I drove it, I was totally impressed at how smooth and how quiet it was. But in addition to that, the responsiveness, the acceleration. I mean, the Nissan Leaf is by no means a sports car, but it's a lot quicker than any ICE cars. And the sheer sort of responsiveness when you put your foot on that pedal, it was just amazing. I was hooked.
Great, great, awesome, thank you. And how many electric vehicles you have experience with?
In the 10 years, quite a few. I'll try and do it from in chronological order. Started with the Nissan Leaf. I've had 3 of those. My wife has bought a Zoe. We had that for about a year and actually sold it at a profit because second-hand EVs at one stage started to go up in value. I've had a Kona, a Hyundai Kona electric.
Yeah.
I've also had a Tesla Model 3. And now have the Volkswagen ID3, which is an amazing car. I just simply love driving this car. But I also have a Tesla. I use the ID3 as a work vehicle, and the Tesla is our family vehicle that we use for long journeys.
Great. Okay, great, awesome. I really like ID3. It's a fantastic design.
I'll start by saying that the good thing about this car, overall size externally is more or less the same size as a Golf. Very little difference in size externally, but because it's purely designed as an EV from the start, they've been able to cleverly design it so that your interior space is as spacious as a Volkswagen Passat, a lot more spacious than the actual Golf. In terms of general sort of dynamics and engineering, they've done a really, really good job. I did find that the Kona was quite noisy. I'm very particular about noise level and ride comfort. A nice car, very good range, but it lacked refinement. I also found that the Tesla Model 3 and even the existing Tesla that I've got, which is a Tesla Model X, lacks the refinement that this car has. It's very quiet. It's the suspension, the ride quality is very supple, and I think they're onto a winner. They have got a slightly larger version of this, not slightly, it is larger, called the ID4.
Yes.
But to give you an idea, we're talking about external dimensions. If I open this door and you have a look inside how much legroom is actually available, a small hatchback.
Yeah.
It really, really is, pretty incredible.
Wow. Yeah.
The seats are also very comfortable. And if I show you the boot, again, what they've done, they've actually made the boot is actually slightly bigger than that of a Golf as well. But another interesting thing, got my cable there. Another interesting thing is that I can fit 2 very large suitcases in this, whereas the Tesla Model 3, because it's not a hatchback, the boot looks big, but you can only fit 1 large suitcase in and 1 small. Can't fit 2 large, or you could fit 2 mediums. This is truly amazing. Plus, if it's the parcel shelf, can be removed as well. Are you going to sit in? Let's take this back a bit for you.
Wow.
Yeah, what they've done with the interior, they've gone down the Tesla route of having it very minimalistic. So you haven't got loads of buttons and switches, whatever. You've basically got switches on the steering wheel, which is a combination of volume, cruise control. I'm trying to think what other functions. Also, yeah, you can interact with the screen, but the screen is also a touch screen. And again, I've slightly angled it towards the driver, which actually is quite a clever design. A lot of cars, the screen is quite flat, but basically you do everything on that screen. It's totally, in fact, yeah, totally sort of touch control, but it's also got another feature, which I haven't used a lot, and that's voice control.
Oh, wow.
There's a few sort of niggles where it sometimes doesn't understand your voice, but personally, I like this minimalistic sort of approach, where you don't have loads of buttons, and actually even the heating system, you can talk to it and tell it that you're cold, and it'll put the heating up.
Wow. I really like the design. I like the touch, the feel that gives this luxury look to it.
Of course, so it doesn't appeal to everyone. So I specifically chose this color scheme. If you don't want the white steering wheel, you can have a black steering wheel, and you can have a black dash, or you can have a grey. But I thought, I'd do something different, sort of like a.
This is cool. This is cool. All right, how convenient do you think is driving an electric vehicle overall?
I think it depends on your personal circumstances, where you live. For me, it's very convenient. Electric cars now are far better. I say better. They have much longer range than they did back in 2011. However, I very rarely have to rely on public chargers, because with a car with a range of over 200 miles, it's very rare that I will do more than that in one day. In terms of convenience, every motorway service station and throughout the country there are lots and lots of chargers. You'll never be more than, say, 10 miles away from a charger. So in terms of convenience, it's a lot better now than it was in 2011.
So most of the time you would charge using your home charger, right?
That is correct, overnight. And I mean, that's the convenience of it. It's not like I go out and every sort of 50 or 60 miles I'm worrying about running out and have to find somewhere to charge. Even on a long journey, I do sometimes do long journeys down to Bristol, and you know, I can go all the way and charge when I get there, or I can stop halfway to have a little boost while I, you know, go to have a comfort break.
Have you ever had a really long journey? I mean, how far you've traveled with an electric vehicle?
Well, I can name the countries.
Wow.
I've been as far as Norway.
Norway,
Yeah. Traveled, stopped in Germany overnight. Then I stopped in Denmark for a couple of days, and I stopped in Sweden for a couple of days.
Wow.
Ended up in Norway, and Norway is absolutely covered with charge points.
Really?
This journey was, by the way, in a Tesla, and there are Tesla charge points all over Europe. I've also been to Switzerland. And like I said, the journey is just a breeze. It was never a concern. I can drive for 180, 200 miles, stop for a 30-minute break while the car charges. There are some people that think you've got to charge an electric car for like 4 or 5 hours on a long journey, but you don't.
Great.
You know, and you really do. After driving 200 miles, you really should stop for a break anyway.
So you had any anxiety driving an electric vehicle all over Europe?
None whatsoever. I will be honest, and I'll say that no anxiety whatsoever with the Tesla, because the Tesla charge points are incredible. They're plentiful, and I think the Tesla brand is the best car right now for long distance, certainly European travel. I'm not so sure that I would have tackled it in a non-Tesla vehicle. Can be done, but I know I've read many reports of people who've gone to Europe in a non-Tesla vehicle and have ended up in real problems, you know, trying to find somewhere to charge, having different accounts, you know, to charge with.
Yes. So the network is not that good yet.
It's not that good, but one of the problem with networks, which I think the government here should be addressing, is that regardless of which charge point you turn up at to charge your electric car, you shouldn't have to be a member of that company. You should just be able to pay with a credit card, or you should be able to get one charge card that works with all charge providers. This is where Tesla wins, because you own a Tesla, you charge at any Tesla, anywhere.
What are the costs of charging an electric vehicle for you personally?
For me, right, it does depend on the size of the battery. For example, the first Nissan Leaf I had a supposedly 24 kilowatt battery, but you, as a driver, only had access to, I think, 21 kilowatts. The Tesla Model 3, I think, had a 50 kilowatt battery. The Kona had a 64, and this has got a 58. So in terms of cost for a full charge, it's very rare that I get home and the battery's totally empty. But if the battery was totally empty, it's whatever your domestic rate is for electricity. For me, it's around 15 pence per kilowatt. Multiply that by the size of the battery pack. Charging on public chargers is very different. The prices all vary from, some of them are actually still free. Some of them are as little as 9 pence a kilowatt. Some of them are as much as 40, 50 pence per kilowatt. So typically for me, charging this from totally empty, using my home electricity, would be about £8.50. And there are an awful lot. Sometimes when you go shopping, we go to a supermarket and the charges are free, or if you go to a retail park, you're going to be there for 2 or 3 hours. A lot of those charges are free, so you plug in. By the time you finish your shopping and you come home, there's very little charging to do at home.
Right. What about the maintenance of an electric vehicle?
That, again, does vary from car to car. If I start with the Nissan Leaf, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the service intervals were 18,000 miles?
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't even do 18,000 miles in a year, but from memory, the first service cost me £99. And only had the Leaf for a year. That's the new 40 kilowatt Leaf. So I'm not sure what the cost of the second service will be. In terms of the Kona, that was a little bit different. That has to be serviced every 10,000 miles. And again, it wasn't that much. In terms of cost, you're looking at about £99, £120. Yeah, relatively low. However, when you come to the Tesla now, Tesla got a policy that their cars don't need to be serviced unless something pops up on the screen that it needs to be serviced. But there are certain things that do need doing after 2 years. So potentially, you have no fault signals come up on the screen, you can run that car for 2 years without servicing. So the running cost, as you can see, very little. It's the same with the Volkswagen ID3. What they've actually said is that the car doesn't need servicing for the first 2 years, and after that it's a yearly service. Cost of that I'm not entirely sure yet, but what I do know though is that you don't have any oil, you don't have any oil filters, any plugs, any of those things to change. So apart from like your general sort of checks and your electronic diagnostics, there's very little to worry about. In addition, running cost I would put down to including things like road tax. There is no road tax to pay.
Yes.
And I go into the zone every day, and that's £15 a day for ICE vehicles, Central London, and I don't pay that either. So all in all, really, running an EV, running cost is extremely low.
Yeah. So you heard, guys, if you want to save money, really, that's the only way. You need to have an EV. Do you have any tips for those who are hesitant, who are still considering, but they are not sure yet if they want to go or not with an EV?
Yeah, there are a number of websites where you can, depending on obviously your car usage, how many miles it's doing, but there's a number of websites where you can do a comparison how much it would cost you to run an EV and compare that to the cost of running your petrol or diesel vehicle. When you see those savings, it's actually quite incredible. You'll realize that by getting an EV, what you're actually saving can actually pay for the EV. Another tip, when getting an EV, first of all, if you analyze your daily usage, how many miles do you do per day, whether you've got a 20-mile commute to work and a 20-mile back, whether you're using the car for private hire. If you do a lot of miles, then I would say go get an EV with the biggest battery capacity possible. With that, obviously, you'll pay a little bit more. But if your daily sort of return trip is only about 40 or 50 miles, there's some extremely good priced EVs on the market now with a range of about 150, 180 miles. And you don't necessarily need to be going for one with a big battery pack. But a big battery pack is always better because people talk about range anxiety. Essentially, people like to know they've got lots of range, but the reality is very few people do more than 80 miles a day.
All right. So the tip, as I understand, is go for what you need. Okay, thank you so much for sharing all this practical knowledge. And I wish you all the best with all the electric vehicles and all your trips.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Always willing to help.
Okay. I think that was a great interview, guys. It was worth it traveling all the way and meet Vince. It's so valuable. You don't meet everyday people with 10 years of experience with EV. Thanks for watching and see you again.